What should we expect from Hank Brown on Saturday against Arkansas?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's a War Rapport Wednesday. We're joined by Mike G of the War Rapport, hanging out with us as he does each and every week. We'll get to our picks and predictions for Auburn versus Arkansas on Saturday, but let's talk about the guy that the Auburn fan base can't stop talking about, and that, of course, is Hank Brown, Auburn's new QB1. Looked great in his opener against New Mexico, a team where we talked over and over and over again about how poor their pass defense is statistically. Now the level of competition goes up a notch, Mike G. And to me, like, if Auburn wins or loses this game, it still falls on the quarterback. Is Hank Brown going to do enough on Saturday to say, hey, yes, this is still my team. I can carry this team to be competitive in conference play? What are expectations for Hank Brown?
Well, I'll tell you this. Whether he does enough or not, I think he should get another week, personally. If you're Hugh Freeze, the quarterback carousel would be devastating for this team. But to answer your question, I think there were a couple things that stood out to me from Saturday, Zach. Number one, his average yards per throw, 11 yards per attempt. That'll win you some ball games.
Sure, it will. First down every time you throw the ball. Heck yeah.
And so if that holds, if he can find a way, and that's about the deep ball. And Hugh Freeze said repeatedly, Hank Brown has the best deep ball in this QB room. We knew that. You and I have known that for months. So he's gone out there and he's shown that when he's gotten a chance to get in the game. Now, I know it's a small sample size, but there are some things that are translating. You got to look at this like foundational building blocks. He's got to start somewhere, and this is where he's starting. So, the other thing that I think, what he's got to do to solidify this is protect the football. He was the complete antithesis of Peyton Thorne in his debut that Thorne was the week before. Sure. 4 interceptions to 4 touchdowns and no interceptions will get the job done as well, too. So I think if he keeps the football out of harm's way, you're going to see Hugh Freeze stick with him down the stretch here.
Yeah. And the comment you made about, like, regardless of what he does, Hank deserves another week. I'm with you. Like, I don't think this needs to be a situation where
come on, man,
you go back and forth. I don't think it really helps the football program to go back to Peyton Thorne at this point. So I'm there with you. As far as like what made Hank so successful, it's his decisiveness and intentionality of when he goes to an option, he's going to that option, which will turn, that's the whole point of like the gunslinger mentality. It's like, I'm going to my guy. If we make a play, great. And if not, like, there are going to be negatives that come with that. He's not going to be perfect for the remainder of the season. But I do love the intentionality of all of this. And, they talk about the rules. When Hugh Freeze calls a play, there are rules. So if the defense does this, I need to do this. If the defensive end does this, I need to do this, and so on. And Hank seems to process that information a lot quicker than Peyton did. I think that translates from New Mexico to Arkansas. I don't think that's opponent dependent unless they do something really complex on the scheme side of things. And from my understanding, Arkansas doesn't really do that, Mike G.
Yeah. What you're talking about there about the rules, that sounds dangerously similar to pre-snap reads. And one of the things that stood out to me in the advanced statistics after the game was his time to throw. His time to throw was 2 seconds flat. He was not holding on to the ball. There were people on social media that were pointing, they were doing RPO and this and that. Look, man, at the end of the day,
who cares?
You saw him out there getting off his primary read before the ball was snapped. That's what good quarterbacks do. Yeah. So, yes, he was throwing the ball quickly because he knew this guy's locked down. I see the defense safety setting his feet. I'm going deep to Keandre Lambert-Smith. And I got a chance to talk to him after the game. He was seeing the field really well, and he felt confident out there. And that results in a quicker time to throw, which, by the way, Zach, will cover a multitude of sins on the offensive line. A quarterback that does not hold on to the ball will help an offensive line greatly. In the last few quarterbacks Auburn has had, we've seen that be a problem where they're holding on to the ball. Everyone's like, "Oh, this offensive line sucks," and it's like, "Oh, if you're having to protect for 4 seconds or 3 or 4 seconds on average, you're not going to do well as an offensive line."
No, you're not. And I was pretty vocal of saying, like, look, the O-line's not perfect, but I don't think it's why the offense really struggled against Cal. To me, I think the O-line's fine. I think it's good enough to do what Hugh Freeze needs them to do. They just need a guy back there getting rid of the football. And I think that should quell some of the concerns from folks that say, well, Thorne's a better runner than Brown, but it's like, if you get rid of the ball,
it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Worry about pressure. I've watched every snap of Tom Brady's career, and what happened towards the end of it is everybody talked about how great his offensive lines were, and it's like, no, he just got rid of the football.
Tom Brady was elite at manipulating the pocket as well, too. So he knew how to move within the pocket to create those spaces to throw the ball. And that's something that I think we see Hank Brown do as well, too. How many times have you watched Peyton Thorne over the last year in 3 games and said, man, if he had just stepped up in the pocket there, right, and delivered the throw, I think Bo had that problem. TJ had that problem. It was just step up in the pocket, man, and make the throw. Hank Brown, when he talked to us over at Vintage, he said he was a gunslinger. Exactly. He said, "I'm a gunslinger. That's what I do." He gave me Brett Favre kind of energy, like, as far as the arm is concerned.
Sure.
But
thank you for clarifying. No, I agree. So as far as expectations for Hank this Saturday, I mean, do we think the stat line should look similar to what it did against New Mexico? Does he take a step back? I mean, where are you as far as what proper expectations should be for Saturday?
About 250 yards and 3 touchdowns.
If that happens, I feel like Auburn really wins with ease if they have that line. I mean, that's I almost wonder if that's too much expectations.
What's funny is we're in a place at Auburn where 250 yards and 3 touchdowns feels like too much, but that's true. In the top half of the SEC, that's like an average day. So it's not too much to expect from a starting quarterback at the SEC level. If you want to be in the top half of the conference, that's got to be the expectation week in and week out. If not, your run game is going to have to carry a major load there. Now, we saw Jarquez Hunter step up 155 yards on the ground on Saturday, but they're going to key in and they're going to test. Travis Williams' defense is going to try to test young Hank Brown and see what he's got back there because they know what's coming in Jarquez Hunter. But they're going to say, hey, look, man, let's see if this young man can beat us throwing the ball. They're going to have to watch the deep ball. I think that's the one thing that they have to respect, right, is when he lets it fly deep. He threw 3 balls beyond 20 yards on Saturday and connected on all of them. So
when you look at what Arkansas's best opponent so far was Oklahoma State on the road, and some of the stats are a tad inflated because they went to overtime, but it was just one overtime. Alan Bowman, the OK State quarterback, went 27 for 48 for 326. 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But the rushing, I mean, the best player on OK State's team is Ollie Gordon, who's one of the best running backs in all of college football. And he went 17 for 49 in a score, averaged less than 3 yards a carry. On the show that I dropped Wednesday morning, Mike, I talked about how Jarquez Hunter needs to step up. I mean, what do you think that balance should be between Auburn running the ball and Auburn passing the football?
If Auburn hits the volume of plays that Hugh Freeze is going to want, the balance should be about 55-45. That's 55% run, 45% pass. That's when Hugh Freeze's offenses have worked the best, Zach, is when they can establish the run. It's a misconception about his offenses is that they don't like to run the ball, that he hasn't produced high-profile backs in the past, but they have tried to run the ball. Like that's what they do, and that's when his offenses have been the most effective. So I think about 55% run, 45% pass, and then you got to get north of 70 plays, man. All this running less than 70 plays a game means a lot of 3 and outs. And drive stalling out and a lot of no flow on offense. Hugh Freeze talked about this in one of his recent pressers about why we didn't see a greater rotation players was because they never really got in any kind of rhythm on offense. And that leads to lower play percentages, which means you're behind the chains and you're throwing the ball a lot more than you want to be.
Yeah. Good point. All right. What are our picks and predictions for Saturday? We jump into that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Mike G, can you imagine buying tickets anywhere other than our friends at Game Time?
I can't.
I can't either. I bought my NFL tickets for Pat's Texans that's coming up next month. I bought them earlier this week on Game Time, and it was so easy. You pull up the game. They've got like different symbols next to like the tickets and the seats and all that, so you can see which ones are like the best bang for your buck. I went straight for that. I like the view from my seat. It told me the home sideline, the visitor sideline. I want to sit behind the Patriots, and I'm like, okay, easy peasy. And of course, it transferred right into my phone wallet from there. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
Zach, you hit a Pats game every year, it feels like.
At least one.
At least one every year? Okay,
that's right.
All right.
At least one. Yeah, and this one I want to see CJ Stroud too. So,
Ooh,
it's far enough in the season. It might be Drake May's debut. Maybe we'll see what Jacoby keeps doing. So far, haven't been too blown away with what he's done. So, as far as what Auburn and Arkansas's final score should be, Auburn's a 3.5-point favorite according to our friends at FanDuel. And I like that. It's kind of the unwritten rule. You get 3 points for, home field. So if these teams were playing at a neutral site game, it's pretty much a push. Maybe Auburn's a 0.5-point favorite. And I think that feels right because we don't know really what either of these teams are. Arkansas's look different every time we've watched them. Auburn's look different pretty much every time we've watched them. And so I think we're going to learn a lot about both of these teams. And hopefully Auburn's the team that looks more like they did against Cal, not against Cal, but against New Mexico and Alabama A&M. And hopefully Arkansas is the team that they look like against UAB.
I agree. You said a true thing about these teams have looked wildly different in the appearances that we've seen.
It's insane.
Arkansas's Taylon Green. Now he threw for 400 yards. Like you said, the stats are a little bit inflated because they went to overtime, but 26 of 45 is 57% passing. I think if Auburn can keep them there, but keep the volume down, they have a really good shot in this one. I like the Tigers here. Give Hank Brown his 3 touchdown passes. Give Jarquez a score on the ground and a $120 rushing, and give me the Tigers 31-24.
That'd be great. Might call me crazy because we've heard about there's so much excitement about what Auburn's offense could be under Hank Brown.
Yep.
And the shift, and it's kind of re-energized the program. And then also just the energy around Arkansas's quarterback and Taylon Green and the running back and Jaquindon Jackson. They're dynamic. Both of them are extremely dynamic in different ways. But there's a feeling inside of me that I can't shake that this turns into some like defensive game where it's like 21-17. Like, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I can't quantify it with stats or anything like that. It's just a feeling that I've got. I mean,
That's
how
fair.
many times do we talk about both these offenses are going to pop off and then they don't? It's the defenses that show up. That's kind of where I'm living right now.
Okay. I don't hate that.
Okay.
I don't hate that at all. Yeah, I can see that happening as well too. I'm 21-17. I'm going to give each team another score. Right. Like, so I'm really not that far off from you on this one.
I get that. Sure.
But one of the things, and we talked about this pre-show, one of the things that I think we see here is we see Malcolm Simmons do something crazy in this game.
So you've been, you are a Malcolm Simmons truther.
I am.
Through and through. Hugh Freeze earlier this week talked about how, Simmons, it's like he doesn't always understand the calls or know exactly what he's supposed to do. So they're making like a section of the play sheet where it's like a smaller selection of plays that he knows 100%. I mean, I assume you love that.
I do. What I also love is when anytime you ask Hugh Freeze about Malcolm Simmons, he gets the biggest smile on his face.
Sure.
He knows this kid is a gamer. And
0 to 60 in 1.5 steps. I mean, it's insane.
Oh my goodness. He said this about Malcolm Simmons. He said he does everything he does 100 miles per hour. Just sometimes it's the wrong thing 100 miles per hour. So it's maybe you're running an out route when he's supposed to be running a go route or something.
Sure.
And so they're trying to get him on the field. And look, I love that he said this because now you got to prepare for it. Charlie Five said this on our presser recap video. He said, look, teams have to prepare for it. When Malcolm Simmons steps on the field, you almost have to assume he's getting the ball. That might open up big plays for other people. But he's proven himself to be a game breaker. And I think they use him a little bit more in this game. The other thing Hugh Freeze said is we got to stop worrying about him not knowing what to do. And we got to get, I'm paraphrasing here, but he essentially said we got to get the playmakers on the field. And that's the desperation I think that you feel with SEC play coming. And you need big plays, man. You need explosive plays because that one explosive play in SEC play could mean the difference between winning and losing. Now I got Auburn 31-24, right? Like that one Malcolm Simmons play, Zach, could be the 7 points Auburn wins by. So, if you're Hugh Freeze, you got to take advantage of all your weapons.
Like, I think this is realistic and maybe less dramatic, but I think you'll agree. A 3rd and 7 where he gets a key 3rd down where he, gets an explosive 9-yard gain on a 3rd and 7 or something. I mean, that's probably more likely than him busting, a 60-yard, catch and score or whatever. Maybe he does both. I don't know. But there's value in him touching the ball 3 times a game. Like you got to give him the targets 2 to 3 times a game. You have to.
I do. You remember last week versus New Mexico, they did like a quick wide receiver screen to the home sideline, and he caught the ball.
They did it with Cal too.
Yeah, it got up the sideline like 11 yards like that, right? You need more of that in this game, and when you talk about quarterback, and this is what I think Hank Brown gives you as well too. On those throws, he's deadly accurate. Mm-hmm. Hank Brown puts the ball where the receiver can catch that ball and make a play after they catch the ball. Those plays are about precision, right? So if you throw the ball behind the receiver, you kill all the momentum, and yes, they catch it, but they're tackled for a loss instead of getting upfield and using their athleticism to get upfield.
Sure.
Hank Brown allows Malcolm Simmons, I think, to function at 9,000. Right. Mm-hmm. So we saw that in game 1 when he threw him the touchdown and he got upfield, almost let the ball go before he went in the end zone, but he got in the end zone. And, I think those two have a good connection that you got to utilize more. So I'm looking forward to seeing that on Saturday.
Mike G, thanks for your time as always. How can people check out everything you've got going on?
Head on over to the War Rapport. I think between the two of us, Zach, we got the best post-game thing going here in the industry. So after the game, you hit Locked On Auburn, come over to the War Report post game. We'll be there a little bit longer than you guys talking about what happened. I come in live from the field, so please go check us out. Follow me on social media at Mike Gittins and the War Report on every social media platform.
Yeah, please do it. Also, hey, like the video, please subscribe, and we will talk to you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.